in the world of sales, what's something that you live through that people who are not in sales are not going to understand, and why does it matter? I'm Sylvan Bell. I'm coming to you live from Sacramento, California. A perfect day to talk about sales and a perfect day to talk about you. Now, one of the worst things you could ever tell a salesperson is they don't work hard, especially when they're a closer, especially when they're a performer. And I know that's you because you're watching a video and 80% of the sales world out there doesn't ever do that. So I know that you are working on being a salesperson or you're a fantastic salesperson just from the fact you're watching a video. And there's nothing worse than when somebody takes a look at what you do and they minimize it. Oh, it's not really that big of a deal for you to make a sale. It's not that hard. It's really easy. I could do it. And I'm like, wait a minute. Time out. If you could do it, you would be doing it. You wouldn't be talking about it. You would be taking some action. And so sometimes it's a slight dig at you. And so people who aren't in sales don't understand this dig. They don't get it. So when people come to me and they're like, hey, Scott, you know, training salespeople, that's pretty easy. I could do it. I'm like, really? Do you know that for the last 7 years, I have spent at least 3 to 4 hours every day in front of a room, in front of people to train them? So you count all those hours, how many times I've been in front of a room, and how many cheeseburgers in life I'm ahead of every other sales trainer who's been out training people, right? You think that's easy? You think it's easy to come up with content? Like, just think about like when somebody comes at you and says, you're not that good of a salesperson, or it really doesn't take that much, or salespeople are lazy, whatever way that they say it. I'm just giving you my example, right? I've written over 900 pages of training, but I don't have these books out published for people to buy. It's just ways for me to keep track of my content so that I can modify it, I can change it, I can print it if needed. So someone's like, hey, Scott, you know, your job is really easy. Oh, really? Did you read 2,000 books? Did you sit through thousands of hours of training? Have you sat through thousands of sales calls? Right? Have you spent piles of money to learn how to do this? Right? So even for me, when people come at me like, it's not that big of a deal, it's not that hard to be a sales trainer. Oh, really? Have you ever tried to train 50 people in a room? Have you ever had to deal with a difficult salesperson who thinks they know everything but knows nothing? Right? So like, I'm giving you my example because you could look at it and go like, hey, Scott, I've heard that, but I didn't realize why it causes me so many problems. So for you, like, how many times has somebody said that to you that's never sat through a sales call, that's never had to deal with rejection, never had to deal with a difficult client, never had to deal with a job going sideways, never had to deal with a cancellation, never had to deal with somebody in the office trying to ding their check every chance that they get it, and never had to deal with somebody who's in competition with them trying to take them down every second of the day, right? So when somebody's like, hey, Scott, your job's easy, I just gave you examples of why my job's difficult, why I was able to bypass a whole bunch of other people, right? And why you should do the same. When you should look at it and be like, my job isn't easy, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go close some deals. And oh, by the way, the deals that I close are going to pay for you to be here, okay? So people who aren't in sales, they don't understand this concept. They just don't. But when you take a look at everything that you've gone through and everything you've been through to be to the point where you're at, or everything you're going through right now to be to the point that you're heading to, it is a lot of work and it's a lot of effort. The average salesperson spends no more than $20 a year on their own education. 20 bucks. That's one hardcover book. Most hardcover books are like $19.95 plus $3 shipping, okay? So the average salesperson, Audible, is 15 bucks a month. That's one book on CD or audio program, right? So like my audio, I have a 512 gig card in my phone filled with content that I listen to while I drive. Sometimes it's house music, sometimes it's gym camp, sometimes it's sales training, sometimes it's Igor Lidohofsky, sometimes it's Dr. Kevin Hogan, sometimes it's Dave Lacani, sometimes it's Dr. Eric Knowles, sometimes it's Gary May. All right, so when people come to me and they're like, hey, Scott, you know what, salespeople, they don't have to work hard for what they get. Really? Really? Like, I just flew to Minnesota to go interview somebody to be better at what I do. And so, like, this is real deal for my life. You're going to have a different blank for you to fill in, okay? I'm just giving you an example where people tell me you don't have to work hard for what you do. And I'm like, you are out of your freaking mind. You have gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You are just insane at this point. And so sometimes it's done, just so you know, sometimes it's done to be a stab right here in the gut or right here to make you feel bad for what you do. Because here's the real deal. It's jealousy. Most people do not have it in them to be a salesperson. Most people don't have it in them to go in there and fight for a deal, to ask for a deal, to get rejected, to close a sale, to deal with the problems, to deal with the issues. It just doesn't happen, okay? So it's the real deal for you to know about. Sometimes when it comes down to it, people who have not been in sales do not know what you live through. They're not ever going to understand what you live through. And this is why you need to have a good therapist or a good coach in case things go sideways. There you go. So you got one thing to do from here, just one thing. Find the subscribe button and click on it every time I send out a video. You'll get an update that says Scott Bell Consultant sent out a video. You should check it out, which you should. We'll see you soon. Thanks for dropping by. Aloha.